If you can just turn to page 47 of Land of Truth and Liberty.
Oh.
Senate Republicans, they suffered a major setback earlier today as they tried to rid you, the American people, of the burden that is Obamacare. They failed to move forward on a clean repeal of Obamacare, and all the talk, all the rhetoric we have heard over and over again for 7 years was just that, empty talk, rhetoric. It meant absolutely nothing. Now, these senators, Susan Collins of Maine, West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito, John McCain of Arizona, Bob Portman of Ohio, Lamar Alexander, Tennessee, Lisa Murkowski, Alaska, Dean Heller, Nevada.
If you stand up and campaign and say we're going to repeal Obamacare, and you vote for Obamacare, those are not consistent. And the American people are entirely justified in saying any politician who told me that and voted the other way didn't tell me the truth. They lied to me.
Mitch McConnell is working for common sense health care reforms. That starts with repealing Obamacare, and Mitch is leading the fight.
You're telling me that you'll be true. Lies, lies, that's all I ever get from you.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. If you've got health insurance, you can keep it. If you like your health care plan, you will keep it.
If you have insurance that you like, you will be able to keep that insurance.
I'm Mitch McConnell, and I approve this message.
What Jefferson was saying was, hey, we left this England place because it was bogus. So if we don't get some cool rules ourselves, pronto, we'll just be bogus too.
Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio and television and the internet. To hell with them.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. Yes, it's another episode of online on-demand Fastener Talk Radio and other assorted effluvia. Hey everyone, Eric Dudas here. I'm joined as always by online Fastener Ubermensch Brian Musker. Hey Brian, how you doing?
Doing good, thanks. Good mention effluvia, relates to water of course.
Which is appropriate because we just came back from a whole lot of water.
I know. Yeah, miles and miles of it.
Yeah, we were up there on our annual voyage to Lake of the Woods to do some fishing, and we had a great trip, and frankly, it's terrible to be back.
It's really hard to be involved in programming. However, I am trying.
Well, the mitigating factor is that we get to do another episode of Online Fastener Talk Radio. Hey, everybody. We're so glad you joined us. This is episode 118. We're publishing a little bit late this time on July 28th, 2017. After struggling to clean out the voicemail box and the inbox from the emails, we managed to line up, I think, a pretty good show. The feature segment on today's episode is a far-reaching conversation with Charlie Kerr, he of Kerr Lakeside. We'll kick the episode off today with a conversation with Jonathan Koch. He's with Industrial Metal Finishing down there in Houston. Lots of fully threaded listeners down there probably know Jonathan, and you'll get to know him a little bit better during this episode. A lot of good information, folks, even if you're not in that particular geographic market, especially if you're looking to maximize your presence in the fastener industry online.
Right.
Frank DeVito of Solution Industries joins Mike McNulty on the Fastener News Report to cover last month's Fastener Distributor Index. Another strong month, Bri.
Yeah, I know. And I think this month is sort of strong too, actually.
Especially for July. Yeah, we usually see it slow down a little bit. But
yeah.
the fastener industry steams along. Plus, on this episode, we'll hear from Melissa Magestro of Mack Brooks. She'll be recapping the recent Mexico City Fastener Show. She'll also give us the lowdown on the recently announced Fastener Fair USA, which is happening in April in Cleveland. Plus, Carmen Vertullo has the Fastener Training Minute. So we managed to pack a lot in, Bri.
Right. Now, I'm not sure if I told you, but while I was up fishing, I did receive a photograph of my office, which had been cleaned out, I might say. No, nearly cleaned out in my absence.
You mean organized, right? You didn't suffer a robbery.
No, I mean cleaned out. Apparently, it was too messy. So I'm dealing with that while I'm finding everything again. So anyway, that's a minor problem relative to the fascination of fishing again.
People don't realize that sometimes the organized Brian Musker is nowhere near as efficient as the usual disorganized Brian Musker.
That is very true. That's very true.
But one thing I know you do have organized is the list of today's sponsors. Brian, who are they?
Right. Yes, we have a great set of sponsors. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stellfast and the Lindstrom family of companies, including Titan Fasteners. Stellfast, for service you deserve and people you trust. And the Lindstrom family of companies. Lindstrom, by any measure. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are 3Q USA-made fasteners, Buckeye Fasteners, InSequel Software, the National Industrial Fastener Mill Supply Expo, the Worth Group, ND Industries, Fastenal, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. Thanks to all of you. We did think of you as I was casting up in Canada, okay? I think Eric was wearing one of the hats, and we do rely on our very, very good sponsors.
Well, we've managed to accumulate a fairly wide wardrobe of fastener-related fishing gear over the years from our sponsors, among others, and
right.
Not that they did them much good up there on Lake of the Woods, but we were wearing it nevertheless, guys. You were in our hearts and on our chests.
Right. Actually, about 2 years ago, Eric was we were going to film, and Eric was wearing his ND Industries hat, and we were in a sort of it was a sort of tough weather coming in. So Eric was standing and I was filming him, and suddenly a gust of wind was so strong, blew his hat off right into the lake.
Yeah, we have to dig that movie out and do something with it. Put it out there in YouTube, I tell you.
It was very, very funny.
Not to mention that ND Industries hat has been very, very lucky for me. I've caught a lot of big fish wearing that particular hat. And maybe you've caught some big fish wearing various fastener apparel too, folks. If so, let us know about it. You can do so at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com or tell us about it out on Twitter, where our handle is Fully Threaded. During the next segment, we jump right in with Jonathan Koch, so I'll point out that we're the guys who bring you the FCH Sourcing Network, everybody. That's found at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com. Most of you know by now, but it's a huge online resource for you anytime you're looking to find a hard-to-find inventory part. Brian, we've been talking about it a lot in recent episodes, that we've got some new developments coming with our search interface. Hopefully by the next episode, that'll actually be live in production out there on the webpage, and we can talk about it then, but keep your eyes peeled for it, everybody.
Yep. Yeah, we're just putting in final bits of infrastructure in place, actually. The search has been sitting there waiting to go for probably a month and a half now.
And we'll appreciate your feedback on that when it finally does make it onto the public site. Once again, the FCH Sourcing Network, that's fastenersclearinghouse.com. This is Fully Threaded Radio, episode 118. We're going to take a break to hear from some of our aforementioned sponsors. Then we'll be right back with you. It's Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded.
Brian and Eric, your online Fastener Talk Radio brothers in thread. Fully Threaded Radio.
What's the real value of Lindstrom? You probably know us as a leading specialty fastener master distributor. But what really sets us apart is a commitment to providing added value for the distributors we serve. Over the years, we've developed a solid foundation of value-added specialties, including hard-to-find products, expertise in secondary processes, in-house manufacturing, technical services, and unique inventory management programs. As we continue to expand, Lindstrom is focused on a single goal: to bring our distributors the perfect combination of convenience, flexibility, value, and choice, to be the source for everything distributors need. When you need something special, turn to Lindstrom. To learn more about Lindstrom and our expanded brand of value-added products and services, visit LindstromFastener.com or call a sales representative at 1-800-572-5550. Lindstrom, by any measure.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been servicing the fastener community since 1905. An employee-owned company for 33 years, we take great pride in the quality of products we sell, offering outstanding customer service from our very knowledgeable sales team members. Our standard product lines include braided weld screws, resistance weld fasteners, leg levelers, tube inserts, clevis pins, and various other fasteners. We have complete custom manufacturing capabilities in low carbon, medium carbon, and stainless steel materials, and our quality systems are registered to ISO standards. We also have an entire team of sourcing specialists able to locate those hard-to-find items with typically smaller minimums and shorter lead times than that of our competition. We offer same-day shipments from one of our warehouses, strategically located throughout the United States and Canada, enabling us to fulfill all your fastener needs in a very timely manner. To find out more about Buckeye Fasteners, please call us at 800-437-1689 or visit us on the web at buckeyefasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, product support from development to implementation.
Fastener distributors, 3Q Inc. is the best kept secret for all of your fastener needs. 3Q is the premier sourcing solution for the fastener distribution market. 3Q offers stock and release programs on all special fastener products, from flat washers, lock nuts, cold form specials, to bolts and screws. Looking to add the highest quality line of self-drilling screws? Check out the pull-tight line of serrated self-drilling screws. They bite. Distributors who know of 3Q wonder how they ever operated before without the high level of service and quality support provided by 3Q and their staff. The number 3, the letter Q, 3Q Inc. Quality products, quality service, quality customers. Welcome to 3Q.
This is Dick Ripley from Lindstrom, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio, the voice of the fastener industry.
Brian and Eric back with you, fighting for truth, justice, and the fastener way of life. Fully threaded.
Okay.
Oh, Bryce, so as we were saying at the top of the show, we just got back from our annual fishing trip up in the North Woods, and, oh, man, can we go back?
Yeah, I'm not quite into the whole working thing. In fact, I sent a note to Carmen up in Stellfast about that very thing just this afternoon. He said, "Oh, I haven't heard from you. Are you back yet?"
Well, I'm sure he's going to want to see all the pictures, Bryce, so make sure you send them up there. Hey, speaking of Stellfast, I just got off the phone with our buddy O.J. Simpson, the Stellfast one, everybody. Yeah, the other one's back in the news lately. But I talked to OJ, and I was asking him about the Stelfast Monkey Contest. Of course, a lot of folks knew that Stelfast was soliciting input on the color of this year's Stelfast Monkey for the Vegas show. That's a big to-do every year. And he said the election is closed and the decision has been made. But as you know, we won't get any insider information on that decision. So, Stelfast Monkey, what color will it be, everybody?
Right. This is more secure than the NSA, at least, because that and the FBI and CIA, they leak like sieves, but we never can find out anything about the Stelfast Monkey.
Right. Well, Stelfast does a pretty good job of a lot of things, and one of them is keeping a tight lid on that.
Yeah, clearly much better than our federal government.
Hey everybody, we've got Jonathan Koch of Industrial Metal Finishing joining us to kind of meander through the fastener industry during our opening segment here. Hey Jonathan, you out there?
Yes sir, how you guys doing?
We're doing good, thanks. What's life like down in Houston? That's all right. You can tell us about Houston.
Well, it's very hot.
Very humid.
And there's very humid, and there's a handful of clouds. And it'll probably rain here in about an hour for like 10 minutes, and you'll feel like you're in a sauna.
That's my memory of Houston. Okay, that's good. I'm glad you're there and not me at the moment, but still.
Jonathan, you've got quite a history in the fastener industry. Why don't you give us a little bit of thumbnail so that folks know all about that, and we're glad to have you on.
Well, I've been in the fastener business for a little over 20 years. I've grew up in it. My dad's in it. My mom's in it. My uncle's in it. I've been an outside salesman for a couple of local distributorships here in Houston. I've been an outside salesman for a bigger conglomerate that was a national fastener company. I've owned my own business for a few years, and now I'm working for Industrial Metal Finishing, which is a local plating company that does a lot of plating for fasteners.
Okay. So in the scheme of things we talk about, you know, whether it's in the Cleveland area or the Chicago area where I am, what do you take in the fastener industry's activity at the moment in Houston?
It's upticking. Traditionally, here in the Houston market, there's somewhat of a lull in July, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, some of it has to do with people going on vacation, but the other thing is the hire companies that fuel the fastener business, the chemical plants and, you know, the oil companies, the chemical plants for one, you know, they're not doing their shutdowns right now because it's too hot to be outside.
Yeah.
You know, so they start to do their shutdowns in the fall. And so you start to see business start to uptick toward the end of July, and then, you know, moving into August, and then September and October are pretty slamming, and then it dies down in November, and, you know, dies down into December. You know, it was really only 2 weeks where people actually, you know, work. You know, the last 2 weeks of December, you know, people are thinking about Christmas or New Year's. So for the most part, this year has seen a bit of an uptick in the overall business as opposed to the last 2 or 3 years. For a while there, it had come down quite a bit.
I have to imagine that the energy sector is having a huge impact on your geographic area of the market. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, a lot of it, you know, is gauged on the price of oil. So when you start to see oil fluctuate in between 50 and 40, the thing is that the fastener companies that I deal with, they realize that the jobs are not going to trickle down to them as quickly as they would when, you know, the oil's in the $80 or $90. In the Houston market, the fastener companies will get a call at like 3:30 in the afternoon from a gas package manufacturer that forgot to add an extra 20 studs on his order, and they need them right now, you know. So what happens is, you know, they need them now because they got a, you know, a multi-million-dollar or six-figure gas package that they got to ship out that they could care less about few $100 or $1,000 stud bolt order. But to, a small local distributor, $1,000 stud bolt order is a big order.
Yeah.
So what happens is the stud bolt distributors have to gear up for when that call comes, because it's going to come. And so they gauge that, I believe, a lot on the price of oil. So when you see the price of oil at $90, the fastener companies begin to increase their inventory. And then when you see it fluctuate between, 40 and 50, they dial it down. And then when it's in the 20s and 30s, they dial it way down. And all that trickles down to, trickles into us now being, the plating business. So to answer your question, we're starting to see a lot of the fastener companies gear up for the incoming. And the word that I've heard, being an outside salesman and calling on, machine shops, because that's the other part of our business, we've heard rumors and stories that some of the rig manufacturers are starting to gear up with orders, because that's the other guideline, is the rig count. When you see the rig count start to increase, then you begin to, that's the other factor that you can see fastener companies gearing up, because those rigs are going, 24 hours a day. And once again, a rig company or a drilling company could care less for, a couple of grand worth of fasteners to get their rig up when they got millions of dollars sitting in the ground that they need to drill out.
Okay, yeah, there's a different take on economies to what is up here in the Midwest. My memory is that like a few years ago, Dallas was in a boom, and it was mainly gas, I think. It wasn't oil, but I think it was gas and a little bit west of Dallas. And there was a lot of money flowing into Dallas and Fort Worth at that stage. I think that sort of died down. But the overall Texas economy is still a very, very hot economy.
Oh, absolutely. There's more people moving into Texas than, moving out. And there's, from what I've heard and read and listened to, Texas is one of the, state where there's a lot of people moving in, as opposed to, a handful of people moving in. I think U-Haul runs a report every year based off of the trucks that are coming in and not going out. And they said that, Texas is overwhelmingly, the leader. So, and a lot of that has to do with the oil and gas and, energy business.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Now, there's lots of huge, wide open spaces in Texas. So I have to imagine that along with all of this petroleum-based energy business, there's a lot happening in wind too, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you see the Port of Houston, you can drive over the bridge there at the ship channel, and you look down on the right, and you'll see the wind turbine blades that are being shipped in. And then you'll see them going out 45 and I-10 all day long. And we recently drove to California, I say recently, last year, and all through Amarillo, the wind farms were it was a crazy sight. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, they were everywhere. I mean, it was for miles and miles and miles. I totally had never seen anything like it. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's real spooky. Dead birds laying everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So you drove all the way to California?
Yeah.
Oh.
We the wife and the little one and I drove, and we went through New Mexico on the way there and Arizona on the way back.
Right.
And went up I believe it's Highway 5 in California that splits California and goes from LA up to, we went to my brother-in-law's place up in Redding, and there's I believe it's Highway 5.
Yeah.
And now, as an outside salesman, I drive between 30,000 and 50,000 miles a year. Okay. So I drive a lot. I have never driven on a highway that literally has a mind of its own. It is the craziest thing. I don't know if you guys have ever been on this highway, but there's every kind of imaginable obstacle you can think of. I mean, there's hills, we're driving at night up there, and there's, these little rice burners. It was something out of Fast and Furious zooming in and out of it. There's truck drivers coming up and down. You see, crazy cars, and it was unbelievable. And
yeah, and then every 50 miles there's a blockade of social justice warriors.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Well, you see, you've been spoilt living in a place dead flat, okay? Finding a place that actually has hills and having highways that go through hills, it's a pretty interesting experience.
Oh, hey, we're at a stoplight going up to Reading, and I got the window rolled down, the breeze is coming, and I'm smelling something. I'm like, what the heck am I smelling? I look down, and my brakes are smoking. I was like, ugh. You know, this, like, holy cow. Okay, I'm obviously going way too fast because this is not good. So, yeah, I never witnessed that, you know. And in, you know, L.A., man, it was crazy hills. And we were all up on we actually had gone down to Santa Monica, I believe.
Yep.
So we were up and down, you know, the pretty steep hills there. And it took a wear on the old brake system. So
I remember when I first came to America, 1984, and I arrived here, I think it was July, August or something, and I didn't know anyone in America. And for Christmas, I decided I was going to go for a drive around Texas. And I remember driving straight west from Dallas over towards New Mexico. And I'd sort of heard of the oil in Texas. And I remember stopping sort of on the road when we went into the Permian Basin, because you could see the big, like, hillside that you were going down. And I was never in my life ever was I in a place that everything smelt of oil. The air, so much oil was leaking out of the ground. I never forgot that. Just looking, you know, on the edge of the Permian Basin and just looking down. And then when I got there, just for days driving around the stink of oil.
Right.
Well, that's Texas's money.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Texas money, Jonathan, you're a coach. Koch.
Correct.
And I got to ask you, of course, everybody knows the Texas brothers of political impact fame, the Koch brothers, or the Koch brothers, it's pronounced. Any relation?
No relation, but I've called on a couple of their subsidiaries here in Houston, and I get the funny looks from the secretary when they see my business card.
Right, I would think.
And occasionally, when I was on Facebook for a while, I'd get a little politically active, and you know, you'd see the Koch brothers in the news. So I'd post an article just to mess with people and tell them, well, Uncle Charles is back at it again, or you know, as we like to call him on the farm, Uncle Chuck. And you know, of course, I'd get some of the liberals riled up. Oh, I knew you were related to him. Like, I love him to death, man. So I used to poke at people like that sometimes, but no, I'm not related to him.
That's pretty good. Now, do you have a brother in real life?
I have two brothers.
So you are a coach. You're a Koch brother.
Well, the thing is that both my brothers, but here's the crazy part, both my brothers have different names, different last names. So my parents took in one brother when he was 10, and we're the same age. And that's funny looks, because when my parents introduced us as brothers and we look nothing alike, but yet we're the same age, they kind of start to ask questions. And then the same with my little brother, is my blood is my cousin in family members and in reality. And he's a brother. He's always been. We took him in when he was 5 and I was 18. So we're 13 years apart. And, you know, my mom and dad, greatest mom and dad you could ever think of and have. And, you know, I love them to death. And, you know, I'm very blessed to have them. And I feel good with the two brothers I have, even though they're not theoretically the traditional brothers in family sense. They are my brothers in, you know, in a loving and a godly sense, I suppose. So.
Well, that's a good way to be. Well, in a way, you guys are the Koch brothers, and that's a great thing. Hey, everybody, we're talking with Jonathan Koch of Industrial Metal Finishing, and he's down there in Houston, Texas, and we're just jamming along here on Fully Threaded. You know, you mentioned that you were active for a time on Facebook, but you're also a big guy with LinkedIn, and that's something that Brian and I have struggled with. What are you doing out on LinkedIn, and has it helped your fastener business?
Yes, and it's funny you should bring that up, but when I first got a LinkedIn account, I have a good friend of mine he's now an area sales manager for a big bearing manufacturer, and he had a LinkedIn account. He was the first one of my buddies that had a LinkedIn account. And so I was like, oh, cool. So I got a LinkedIn account and I connected with him. Well, then I started connecting with all his connections, not thinking of it. Well, the guys that we go hang out and have beers and go to ball games with are our buds, but we don't actually work with them. And, we all have a different personality. Most people have a different personality at their work as opposed to going to a ball game. And so I'm connecting to my buddy's connections, and I get a call from him, and he tells me, he says, hey, what are you doing connecting to all my connections? I'm like, I thought it was the thing to do. And he was legitimately getting angry with me. I'm like, dude, what's your problem? And he's like, you're not supposed to connect with people unless you've shaken their hand, unless you've met them on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, I've never heard that rule. And, I'm one of these outside the box thinkers. So when I started to increase my my network, I said, you know what, forget that rule. I'm just going to connect with anybody that has purchasing or buyer or procurement in their name. And so I started connecting with everybody. When you go on LinkedIn, if you just put in the search, you put in, fasteners purchasing, well, everybody that has fasteners and purchasing in their profile name is going to pop up. So I just started connecting with all these people, and they started connecting back with me. And after you get a handful of them, I'd go back and message them, not the kind of long, lengthy, message where you're trying to write 7 paragraphs,
Right.
Hey, I'm so-and-so, and, I work for this company, and, I'd like to come introduce myself. And a lot of it started panning out. And then my cousin told me about a website called Hootsuite. And on Hootsuite, you can pre-program posts that can show up through the day. So you go in at like 6 a.m. and you go on Hootsuite and you pre-program all these posts, and then they start popping up on your LinkedIn connection. So you go about your day and you don't even worry about it. You schedule these posts, brief stuff. Hey, contact IMF for all your zinc plating needs, and you leave a little picture or whatever.
So you're doing that for your multiple social accounts, not just because I was aware of that for Twitter, but I didn't know it worked for LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, I was doing it for Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and I did it so much that Hootsuite sent me an email and said, okay, bud, you're done. You're going to have to pay for it from now on.
Wow, you really jumped in.
So how do you measure the success of this? I mean, you've said you think it's very successful. So is it a gut feeling? How do you know that this has actually been good for business?
Well, when I had my own business for about 3 or 4 years, I probably got 4 or 5 customers out of it. And at IMF, I've been able to initiate, numerous meetings because, as an outside salesman, the key is to utilize your time. You have probably 5 to 6 hours of quality time that you have in a day to make connections and to maximize those connections. So one of the things is the way I gauged it was how many times I would send somebody a brief message and they say, oh yeah, come by tomorrow at 8:00 or come by tomorrow at 3:30. And so I was like, okay, well, it literally took me 5 minutes to find this person. Okay. Send them a message. And now I got my foot in the door. So then, from there you gauge it on if you're able to quote them and if you're able to obtain the business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, that's the promise of social media, and a lot of people haven't found it yet, but it sounds like you did. And you mentioned a moment ago that you were in business for yourself for several years. That was a fastener distributorship, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool, before you went to IMF. Well, that's awesome, and you're expanding your network through that, and we were talking before we started recording, and you said you're actually writing a book about this subject.
Correct, yes. Yeah, I started writing a book. The premise is how to start and how to develop a sales territory from scratch. Because every place I've gone, I've kind of been on my own as far as what techniques work and what techniques don't work. And, I never really had a mentor or a trainer. I just kind of knew that I wanted to be an outside salesman. And so I just kind of experimented. And, I've always been a social guy, so I've never had a problem, talking to people. But as far as, different techniques on how do you gauge a customer, who do you cold call on, what do you say when you go there, the different, I break it down to the different secretaries that you're going to come across. Is it going to be the young teenage girl that you can get a lot of information from without her talking? Or
Careful
is it going to be
careful.
I know. Or is it going to be the veteran, the secretary that's been there for 15 and 20 years, and whether people don't know it, she actually runs the company,
Yeah.
So, I break it down even into that kind of detail. So it's really interesting. I've had a lot of fun doing it, and I never really considered myself a writer, and based on the fact that I'll probably have to get it edited multiple times, I got a lot of thoughts, and getting it on the paper has been really fun.
But this is all from the perspective of a 20-year-plus veteran of the fastener industry, right?
Yes, and that was the other thing. I read sales books, and if you ever see a sales book, look at the author. I have yet to find an author that has actually been an outside salesman, okay? So, I'm sure that there's some out there, but you either get a book that's written by somebody who's been in upper management, somebody who's a professor, or somebody who's just going off of theories that they've been taught. And I've yet to see a book out there where it's written by an outside salesman for outside salesmen. So you go through the same experiences that an outside salesman is going to go through, as opposed to, I kind of compare it to the psychiatrist who's given theories and recommendations about children, yet he doesn't even have children. You see those in movies and whatnot. It's the same kind of deal. You don't want to read a book written by a university professor based on, theories and what not to say and, generalizations, as opposed to reading a book that's been written by a guy who's been on the road as much as you have.
Right. It's almost like a politician who's trying to tell us how to run our business, and he's never had a job in his life.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh.
Well, Jonathan, Coach, what are you calling the book?
Well, it's kind of got a working title, and I've called it The Rules of the Road by the Road Warrior, something to that effect. It's one of those things where I started writing the book, and then I just said, okay, because, outside salesmen have been called, road warriors, so I think I'm going to put it that. And then I've been advised by other people, no, you need to name it so that it sounds like what you're selling. You need to put something in the book title about you being an outside salesman or developing an outside sales territory. So I'm going to change it most likely, but I just don't know what to yet.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And if you're going to market this towards the fastener industry, and there's a lot of folks out there who probably could make good use of it, and you've got a lot of experience and a lot of insight, you might want to consider slanting it towards our industry. You probably narrow your market, but a lot of people would get in on that. So good for you. We've enjoyed talking to you, Jonathan. And
thanks for having me.
Well, we sure have enjoyed it so far, but just before we let you go, we were talking before, and you're kind of mostly a saltwater guy, fishing-wise, and we were talking about the big rigs off the coast of Galveston. I always thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could, during the downtimes, just kind of jig off one of those big rigs?
Oh, absolutely. There's all kind of fish off those things. Reds and kingfish, all kinds. I remember one time we went out and for kingfish, we were trolling, and we were out by a rig, and we were probably 8 to 9 miles. We were literally in the Gulf of Mexico. It's the craziest thing. There's a defined line between the murky water and the emerald green water. It's the craziest thing. It's a literal fine line between the two. And then you go out a few more miles, and there's a fine line, I've been told, between the emerald green and the blue water.
You got to work those edges, man.
Yeah. And the craziest thing, we're up there in a pretty good boat. I think it was 18 to 20 foot center console boat that my buddy had. But there was a guy out there in a John boat, and he had the little typical controlled, hand stick motor that he controlled, and he was out there fishing, but it was weird because the waves were so high that you'd see him and then you wouldn't see him, and then you'd see him and then you wouldn't see him. And that guy's a hardcore fisherman.
Right.
So,
he's very, very brave and possibly a bit silly. Okay.
Exactly. No.
See in a John boat.
Well, that's a true fisherman. I tell you, right there, John, that rings true to Brian in my heart. Jonathan Koch, Industrial Metal Finishing. You're a true fisherman at heart, I can tell, and you're also a true fastener guy. Thanks so much for joining us, and we're going to have you back on, I could tell.
Very good. I would enjoy it.
Yes, we need to learn more about LinkedIn, okay?
Well, you do.
Clearly.
I could talk for days about that, so.
I couldn't listen for days, but I mean, there's definitely a lot more that we need to know about it, okay?
Sure.
Hey, everybody. We'll be right back with more Fully Threaded Radio.
These guys aren't screwing around much. Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio, Internet Talk Radio for the fastener industry.
ND Industries has been solving customers' toughest problems through innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service since 1955. A family-owned business, ND Industries manufactures and applies fastener locking, bonding, sealing, masking, and assembling products. Their pre-application process makes fasteners ready to use at the point of assembly, resulting in reduced labor costs, time savings, and superior quality assurance. As a fully integrated company, ND handles all aspects of operations, from formulating custom chemical compounds and coating fasteners to providing inline inspection, packaging, and delivery services. ND Industries serves the global market with 13 divisions in the continental U.S. and also facilities in Taiwan, China, and Turkey. Learn more about ND Industries at our website at www.ndindustries.com. ND Industries, innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service. Contact ND today.
What can I get you, young fella? An ice-cold sarsaparilla? Something stronger like a beer from the tap? Maybe something even stronger like some blended whiskey?
Those sound like interesting choices, but I'll have an old rusty bolt.
You ain't from around here, are you, young fella?
No, sir. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio? Every time we sold old Rusty Bolt, the fight would break out because we couldn't keep enough in stock. I don't want to have to keep fixing this place up.
But I've traveled a great distance, and I've had my taste buds set on an old Rusty Bolt.
I might have one tucked away in the bottom of the cooler. Yep, here it is.
Hey, he's got an old Rusty Bolt. Let's get him!
I warned you.
Old Rusty Bolt beer causing civil unrest since the 1800s. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud fastener show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt beer, official beer of the traveling salesman.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stellfast. Since 1976, Stellfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stellfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stellfast today through our website at www.stellfast.com and put us to work for you. Stellfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Hi, this is Vic from the Cambridge Corporation at the 31st Annual Midwest Fastener Show, and I listen to Fully Threaded Radio.
Hey everybody, if you listened to episode 117 of the podcast, you heard Joe Voltrauer from Volt Industrial Plastics. Well, the latest issue of Link magazine came out, and the cover story is all about Volt. So if you want to get some follow-up information, it's a real nice spread telling the whole Volt Industrial Plastics story in detail. Check it out.
Yeah.
A lot of good feedback on Joe Voltrauer's comments on 3D printing last time, Bri.
Were there? Okay, good. I see there's something I was sent, a link that indicated that there's some new type of metal printing, 3D printing, that's going to be announced very shortly. Came to me all the way from Germany, actually.
Well, 3D and additive manufacturing is a technology area that is expanding and evolving every day, so it's hard to keep up with all the headlines. You never know what you'll see next.
Yep, that's true.
Hey everybody, the Fastener News Report's coming up in mere moments, this time sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics and Fastenal. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast and Lindstrom. And of course, before we get to that, we'll be talking with Melissa Magestro from Mack Brooks. But before we say hello to her, I'd like to extend a word of congratulations to our friend Rich Magliola. He was recently named president of Vertex Distribution, and that was a pleasant surprise. I think a lot of people were talking about that. Rich, of course, is a board member of the NFDA, and good luck to him.
And Vertex has been a FCH member for a long time.
Strong FCH members.
Yeah, right.
I tried to get him on the show, but I think he had a lot on his plate. We'll try to get him on to share his thoughts on the big move and maybe some of his agenda for Vertex as time goes on. But yeah, that was good. I know Mike McNulty will be covering that. But Why don't we play this conversation with Melissa, because sounds like they really, really made some hay down there in Mexico City.
Or whatever is the Spanish word for hay. Do it.
Fully Threaded listeners heard that we were promoting the Fastener Fair Mexico show that happened in June. Here now to discuss what happened at the Fastener Fair is Melissa Magestro from Mack Brooks. Hey, Melissa, you out there?
I am. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
We're doing good, thanks.
I heard good things about Fastener Fair Mexico 2017. Tell us all about it, Melissa.
Yeah, we had a really great show. We were excited that our registrations were up almost 20% compared to the 2016 show. So it was really exciting for us.
Wow.
Considering we were not really sure what to expect with all of the political and economic, let's say, uncertainty that's going on in the region right now. And but we were really pleased with that turnout that we got. Our exhibitors were a little bit more cautious, I think, than they were in 2016. So our overall floor space was just a tad down compared to 2016, but we still had almost 160 exhibitors at the show, and about a floor size of 100 square meters, which I think translates into about 17,000 square feet or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, overall, a really well-attended, busy event, a lot of business going on. We introduced a new conference this time, a distributor, what we called business development conference, that really focused on tools and tricks that distributors could take back to their office and implement, like sales and marketing strategies and workforce development and logistical types of things. I think we had almost 100 people in that particular conference, and it was like a 3-hour conference. So it's definitely something that we're going to continue to do.
Oh, okay. Sounds pretty good. So, and the attendees, are they mainly from Mexico or from other parts of the Americas?
Yeah, the attendance was about, I'll say 95% from Mexico. And then we did see a little bit of an uptick, though, in attendance from South America, other areas in Latin America, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, some Central American countries as well. So we're starting to get more exposure, I think, into other countries in Latin America as well as Mexico.
Good.
as an aside, Melissa, I'll let you know that we saw an uptick in South American listenership to the podcast, so obviously it helped us a little bit too.
Well, there must be some correlation there, Eric. And I think you know that Fastener Fair is a trade show that Mack Brooks runs around the world. So we have 8 different Fastener Fairs that we're currently running. And the Fastener Fair is for the entire supply chain. So in Mexico, we saw like 36% of our attendance was end user, about 32% was distributors, 20% were manufacturers, and the rest were wholesalers and suppliers. So a really nice mix of that full supply chain, which is, definitely what we want to achieve.
Of course, Mack Brooks is the purveyors of the Fastener Fair Stuttgart, which is the largest of all the fastener shows, you call them fairs, in the world. And next one's happening on the 19th through the 21st of March. That's 2019 in Stuttgart, Germany. But before that, you have made a big announcement, haven't you? You've got an event coming up in Cleveland, and that's happening in April. That's Fastener Fair USA. Wow, you caused a lot of people to kind of wake up and take notice of that.
Well, good. I mean, we are really excited and pleased by the amount of support and enthusiasm that we've gotten from the industry since we've launched that, announced that we were going to be holding that event. And the dates for that are, I believe, April 11th and 12th of next year at the Huntington Convention Center in Cleveland. So right in downtown Cleveland. And, Eric, you're from Ohio. You know what a base of manufacturing that is. So it just seems like a really nice natural hub for us to hold the show for the first time.
Yes, it's a sitter.
You're bossed, Eric, okay?
Well, if nothing else, it saves us on hotel bills. But I'm sure it's going to be a great show. But, of course, you're raising a lot of eyebrows with your approach to the market. The rest of the world, as a lot of people have been saying, is got a little bit of a different distribution model. And so Mack Brooks is diving right in with its time-tested model. And we'll see what happens. But what do you have to say about that in general? I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens. But what are your thoughts?
Right. The reason I think that we originally decided to launch something like Fastener Fair in the USA, which, as I mentioned before, is for the entire fastener supply chain, it really came from an exhibitor meeting that we held at a Fastener Fair Mexico with U.S. companies, and just asked them what was the need for the industry in the U.S. And those companies, a number of them were saying there's really nothing for that end user market that we want to hit. We want to talk directly to engineers. We want to talk directly to specifiers. We don't necessarily go through distribution, or we do, but we also want to talk to that end user, and we don't feel like there's a platform for us. And it just seemed like such a natural fit for us because we have such a long history of Fastener Fair, and that's exactly our model, bringing the whole fastener supply chain together in one place. And so, to be honest, we've had a couple of companies that have been a little bit nervous about that model. And when we kind of talk them through our thinking and our rationale and what we're doing on our marketing side, they seem to see it a little bit more positively and get excited about it. So I think all in all, it's a good thing for the marketplace.
Say what you will, it's going to be exciting, and we'll be there. Fastener Fair USA, April 11th through the 12th, 2018 in Cleveland. And Melissa Magestro is with Mack Brooks. They're the world's largest purveyors of fastener shows. Hey, this is the time of the show where we normally introduce the Fastener News Report. We already announced that, Melissa. And at this time, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and to introduce the thing. But appreciate you being with us on this episode of Fully Threaded Radio. Thanks so much, Melissa. We'll see you in Cleveland.
Yes, we will.
Well, thank you for this opportunity and for this very distinct honor to introduce. And now, with news about screws you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Very well done.
Thanks, Eric and Brian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored today by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. The Ringling Brothers staged the final edition of their world-famous circus last May, but the National Basketball Association is taking over as the new American circus, while Kyrie Irving seeks to become its biggest clown. But the Cleveland Indians are still playing first-place baseball, and I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver the Fastener News Report. In this episode, we are going to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on the global fasteners market and newsmaker headlines from Penn Engineering, EFC, Nedschroff, Novaria Fastening, MW Industries, Rambull, Optimus, Nucor Fastener, ATF, Vertex Distribution, GL Hewitt, Rotorclip, and Lindstrom. On the back page report, we're going to talk about mixing economics and politics. We'll get to all of that and the FDI results right after this.
Whether you need a small or large number of fasteners, there is no reason why you should have to sacrifice quality or service for that matter. Volt Industrial Plastics takes great care with each and every order to ensure you receive a quality fastener in a timely and affordable manner. Our state-of-the-art production equipment allows us to produce any quantity you request quickly and efficiently. And with same-day shipping on nearly 1 million in-stock fasteners, we carry an inventory so you don't have to. Visit us online at voltplastics.com to find out more about our quality American-made products. Volt Industrial Plastics, manufacturer of the finest plastic fasteners in the world.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
I know my customers' yearly usage, but I don't have the warehouse space to store it.
Solution Man can. Submit a blanket order and I'll not only set up release dates, I'll offer you bulk pricing too. Visit the Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
You're my fastener superhero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
Mike McNulty.
In June, the FDI stayed strong with a solid reading of 60.8 after hitting an all-time high of 64.6 in May. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network, the National Fasteners Distributors Association, and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insights on these results, we talked to Frank DeVito of Solutions Industries. Hi, Frank. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
How are you? I appreciate you having me on.
I'm good. So this is another good result. What do you think about the June number of 60.8?
We're glad to see it. Obviously, growth is good for the fastener side of things, especially since we're a fastener company. But we're similar to the results there, almost dead on. We've seen a strong June and May as well, and a strong first half throughout. I know the indices a little bit lower in the earlier months this year, but for us, we've been pretty strong for the first 6 months and continue to be strong even through July at this point. So, very encouraging numbers.
Yeah, definitely. If you look back through starting, January was just under 50 at 49.9, and anything 50 or above says that the industry is in an expanding or growing mode. And then after that, slightly under 50 in January, it's been pretty solid, except a slight dip in April. But 2 months in a row of numbers above 60, that's never happened before for the FDI. So
we'll hope it keeps trending that way. Absolutely. And we still see continued growth throughout the second half as well. And obviously you have some of the slowdown months as you get towards the end of the year. But the way we're tracking, we should be pretty strong throughout the year. So we're excited about where we're going, at least what we've seen in the industry as well. And hopefully those numbers will continue to trend that way too on the index.
Yeah, now everybody who participates in this gets a detailed report, and the FDI is made up of different numbers to make the one aggregate number: sales and employment, deliveries, inventories, and pricing. And the big one that jumped out to me was the sales number, set an all-time record of 86.6, which is really, May was high at 79, but this is even higher. So even though the overall number dipped a little bit, sales really stood out.
And as far as on the sales side, again, we kind of mirror that as well. So we at least looking forward to same scenario. We want continued sales records here. If we could do that every month, then we'll make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I looked at the forward-looking indicator, which is relatively new. That set a record also at 64.0 versus 63.3. So people are not seeing this as just as a one-time spike. That's thinking that going down the road 6 months or so is going to be pretty strong. About 88% of the people think the results are going to be the same or higher than they are right now. So you guys seeing the same thing?
We are, and whatever sales is always good, and is looking for. Let's keep them spending their money, right? I mean, so,
that's right.
We'll call it the FDI bump instead of the Trump bump, right?
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty substantial, so it's good. And the comments this time were all pretty positive. Let me see what we had here. We had some of the sample comments. People said sales are picking up and deliveries from vendors are having longer lead times, which means their inventories are going down, obviously. Business definitely improved the first 6 months of this year. It's pretty much what you said. And next comment, most of our customers have a lot of jobs booked. This is our really third good month in a row, and we're starting to see things level off, but it's still above last year by 7 to 10%. So
I'd agree with that as well. I mean, we've seen some extended lead times on our inventory coming in. We ran a little short because sales were so good, but we've bumped up our purchasing there and to bring in some inventory to offset that a little bit, and have continued to forecast higher inventory, budget to make sure that we have the appropriate inventory to fill orders at that point. And we're a little bit different. We do a lot of specials, special run type stuff, so we're not, always stocking inventory for stock, but the items that we have, we've increased that volume a little bit to just make sure that we can cover the first quarter usage or a quarter's usage for our customer base at that point.
Right. Now we're starting to get in the area of the good problems to have, like not enough inventory to fill things in quick enough time, or having to get enough personnel and or manufacturing capacity to fill orders. So those are good problems to have.
Absolutely. And, we're always looking for good people as well. And if we can add good people, we're always listening. So
yeah, as opposed to the times when you have to repaint the break room or something.
Yeah.
To keep people busy.
But now they're getting a little crazy. It's fuchsia or whatever it is now. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're jazzing it up. The standard gray doesn't cut it anymore, or soft white or whatever they want to use. So.
Yeah. Well, for you guys, and we'll use this segue to get into talk a little bit about Solution Industries. You guys are famous for making a splash at trade shows and conferences with, I've seen like some nice looking shirts and some interesting exhibits like transformers or robots and stuff like that. What can you tell us about Solutions Industries, as well as what can you tell us about trade shows coming up this fall?
Well, the transformer is in maintenance at this point, so and the gentleman in it, maybe we need to get him on a diet before Vegas, to fit back in that suit. So, because I'm a little guy too. Yeah, we got to pull his plate away from the buffet there, But as far as trade shows, we always attend. We'll be there full force. I think originally the goal was, I don't know what they do, but they got that logo. We know who that guy is, So right. It's always fun to to see people react to the superhero there, but it's been a good run for sure, and I think we've carved out a nice niche for ourselves in the market. We're service oriented. We're fastener people. I think that's what we like to always put out there. We're willing to help where, if there's expedites, or we kind of try to put ourselves in the customer situation. If it's a line down, we need to react as if it was our line that's down. You would take every step appropriately to do that, and so we try to jump into action. And we're not perfect, but we'll make every effort to help out on those side of things. For sure. So,
yeah.
But it's always exciting here. If you can help a customer, it's get them out of a jam. I think they remember that and kind of feel that on your side, and we get some true partners on those fronts, and it's kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, it says on the website you guys have over 100 years of fastener experience.
Well, I think Johnny and Don alone are probably pushing 150. I'm not.
Two guys.
I guess. I got to go in the morning and pick him up with the bus to make sure we get him here. Now I'm just teasing. Yeah. Don't air that. Good group to joke around and have fun with, and we do have a lot of depth, experience-wise. Again, John Riddell and Don Chan have been in industry. You got to be close to 40 years now, and same thing with some of our sourcing guys. And I'm middle of the road guy, 25 years in. So
that's good.
Yeah, we got a young mix of young people too coming up in the industry. So
I met some young guys at the one of the socials. So you guys definitely make your presence known and got a good approach. All right. Well, thanks for stepping in and providing some insight. That you picked a good month to be on the show because the results are good. So no hand wringing necessary.
Yeah. Once it drips and drops below 50, I won't be available at that point. So.
Front runner.
Yeah, absolutely. Jump on board. Yeah.
Right. Well,
thanks again.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us, Frank. That was Frank DeVito of Solution Industries. The FDI number for June was 60.8. Visit www.fdisurvey.com to participate in the process. Now for today's top story. According to a report published by Research and Markets, the global industrial fasteners market is expected to reach $134 billion by the year 2025, averaging 5.7% annual growth. The demand for automobiles, appliances, aircraft, machinery, and medical equipment, coupled with increased infrastructure spending by governments, will drive fastener use and demand. Standard fasteners and MRO fasteners will grow at slightly lower rates, 5.4% and 5.3% respectively. Emerging countries that are expecting above-average fastener demand include China, India, South Korea, Brazil, Thailand, and Saudi Arabia. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In acquisitions and expansion news, Penn Engineering has acquired White Cell Formed Components, also known as Fabristeel, and White Cell Canada. EFC International is expanding globally with the opening of offices and warehouses in China, South Korea, and Germany. Ned Schroff Holding has signed an agreement to acquire CP Tech GmbH. Novaria Group has acquired Spacelock, which will operate in the Novaria Fastening Systems Group, and MW Industries has launched MW Industries Medical Solutions. In contract news, Bolton's joint venture Rambull LLC has signed a $5.5 million contract to supply automotive fasteners to a U.S. vehicle maker. And Optimus Solutions has formalized a continuation of its contract with Jaguar Land Rover to supply fasteners to Jaguar's UK manufacturing facilities. In personnel news, ATF has added Shannon Leonard as its industrial market sales manager. Chris Locke has been promoted to general manager of Nucor Fastener, Indiana. JIS division of Juergens has added Brooke Heisler as a marketing intern. Bill Davis has been hired at Brighton Best International as a product development sales rep. Vertex Distribution announced that Richard Megliola as their new president, and Rocky Pinheiro has joined Penn Engineering as global vice president of quality. In product news, Lindstrom has updated its technical manual for 2017. G.L. Hewitt has introduced new lines of cotter pins and wire forms to its Heritage industrial product line. Rotor Clip Company is expanding the availability of DIN standard parts for the European market using USA stainless steels. Bayes Supply is now a USA distributor of recoil tangless helical inserts. And Grainger has launched Gamut.com, a new e-commerce capability which includes a fasteners section. You can get details on all these stories and more in Fastener Technology International magazine and its companion publication, the Fastener News Report newsletter, available in print, PDF, and flipbook editions. Finally, let's turn to the back page to talk about the mixing of economics and politics. I recently saw a report that ranked USA counties by household income, and the results are highly skewed towards the federal government located in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. There are over 3,100 counties in the USA, but in terms of income, the top 3, 5 of the top 10, and 10 of the top 20 are all located in Virginia and Maryland counties that are a part of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. The rest of the top 20 includes 6 counties from the New York City metro area, 2 from the San Francisco metro area, and 1 each from the Denver and Nashville metro areas. Do these results suggest that politics leads to good economics? I say no. It only points out the radical and nonstop seizing of wealth that is going on in our federal government. A few days after seeing this irritating report, I read a more satisfying story in the July 10th issue of Fastener Industry News about comments that ITR economist Alan Bewley gave at the NFDA and NEFDA meeting last month. Alan says that we are actually living in the good old days today and that there is so much positive going on. Here are some of my favorite lines. The world is betting on the U.S. The U.S. accounts for 25% of the world GDP. The U.S. has more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world combined. The U.S. has 300 years of oil and gas in the ground while Europe has 30. The economy has more to do with business conditions than Washington, D.C. Take your eyes off of Washington. And finally, if you voted in the last election, it doesn't matter. Washington is a lot of theater. These are solid observations and good advice, which I intend to follow by keeping my eyes clearly focused on fasteners. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at McNulty@FastenerTech.com.
Let's begin now.
Up next, it's the always informative and entertaining Mr. Charlie Kerr. It's Fully Threaded. ND Industries has been solving customers' toughest problems through innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service since 1955. A family-owned business, ND Industries manufactures and applies fastener locking, bonding, sealing, masking, and assembling products. Their pre-application process makes fasteners ready to use at the point of assembly, resulting in reduced labor costs, time savings, and superior quality assurance. As a fully integrated company, ND handles all aspects of operations, from formulating custom chemical compounds and coating fasteners to providing inline inspection, packaging, and delivery services. ND Industries serves the global market with 13 divisions in the continental U.S. and also facilities in Taiwan, China, and Turkey. Learn more about ND Industries at our website at www.ndindustries.com. ND Industries, innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service. Contact ND today.
Fastener Distributors. 3Q Inc. is the best-kept secret for all of your fastener needs. 3Q is the premier sourcing solution for the fastener distribution market. 3Q offers stock and release programs on all special fastener products, from flat washers, lock nuts, cold form specials, to bolts and screws. Looking to add the highest quality line of self-drilling screws? Check out the pull-tight line of serrated self-drilling screws. They bite. Distributors who know of 3Q wonder how they ever operated before without the high level of service and quality support provided by 3Q and their staff. The number 3, the letter Q. 3Q Inc. Quality products, quality service, quality customers. Welcome to 3Q.
Hi everyone, it's Brian Musker. If you're listening to Fully Threaded, then you're no doubt aware of the FCH sourcing network found at fastenersclearinghouse.com. You've probably also heard about our legendary scrubber software that makes listing your inventory on FCH a snap. But have you heard about the new FCH SmartLink interface? With SmartLink, users of Business Edge, InSequel, and Distribution One have a new weapon in the war against excess inventory, because each of these platforms now links directly to the FCH scrubber system through an automated interface. The best part is that this new tool is available at no additional charge to FCH members who use Business Edge, InSequel, or Distribution One. With SmartLink, you can keep your inventory listings up to date with the click of a button, so it's a win-win for all FCH users. The new FCH FastLink interface is really big news, and we'll be thrilled to have your company using it. Business Edge, InSequel, and Distribution One users should contact their software provider for details, or just call me, Brian Musker. You can reach me through the FCH website at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com. That's fasteners with an S, and the S is for scrubber.
Well, welcome everybody to the Fastener Training Minute. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Institute and the Carver Fact Center here in San Diego, California, from which I am talking to you. I had a question recently which has actually come up many times in the past, and it's one that is often put to suppliers of hardware, nuts and bolts. And the question is this: does it make any difference in joint tightness if the tightening torque is applied to the bolt or the nut in a connection which has a bolt and a nut? Well, intuitively, it would seem like it does not matter. Is that true or not is the question. When we come back, we'll give you the answer.
Thanks, Carmen. This is Jo Morris with the Fastener Training Institute. Summer is in full swing, and it is a great time to expand your industry knowledge and continue your path for fastener education. If you're traveling this summer on vacation, you can still take advantage of some great summer courses. Our webinars can be viewed anywhere in the world from any media device with high-speed internet connection. Our summer schedule includes 2 webinars led by instructor Carmen Vertullo: Mechanical Testing of Fasteners for Suppliers. Yes, you can test distributors and suppliers. That will be on July 21st, and Fastener Tightening Strategies on August 11th. And if you're headed on a road trip this summer, instead of listening to a book on tape, download one of our previously recorded webinars. We are currently loading them into our brand new library, which will be available for you to access anytime that's convenient for you. For live classes this summer, FTI is offering 2 Fastener Basics courses, one in Denver, Colorado on July 13th and another in Los Angeles, California on July 24th. In Fastener Basics, you're going to learn basic terminology, how to call out parts, hex head products, nuts, sockets, metrics, screw drives, and much, much more. This is really a great introductory class for those of you new to the fastener industry, and also for those of you cross-training to a new department. While we are in summer mode, how about summer camp for fastener folks? Well, that's exactly what Fastener Training Week is. It's a week-long, intensive version of the acclaimed Certified Fastener Specialist program. Instead of 7 separate one-day classes, Fastener Training Week will consist of 5 intensive days of education and plant tours. Our next Fastener Training Week is hosted by our friends at the Midwest Fastener Association in Chicago. The dates are August 14th through the 18th. Chicago's a fun town. Bring your family, make it a vacation while you embark on one of the best training courses offered in our industry. This class is going to fill up quick, so please don't wait to register. You can enroll online at www.fastenertraining.org or email me or Nancy Rich with the Midwest Fastener Association. The Fastener Training Institute literally has classes for every level of fastener education and great resources to help students obtain this education. If you're not receiving our newsletters and e-blasts regarding upcoming events, please send me a note. My email is jom@fastenertraining.com or visit our website. Once again, it is www.fastenertraining.org. Now, back to Carmen for our Fastener Training Minute.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute. Today, talking about whether or not it makes any difference if we tighten the bolt or the nut in a bolted joint connection that involves the nut and the bolt. Well, to answer this question, you first have to think about what happens to that energy that we call torque that goes into the bolted joint in terms of how it applies to creating tension in the joint. Well, as we know, or you may know, most of that energy goes into overcoming friction. That friction occurs in two places, in the threads and under the bearing surface of the turned component. So if that turned component is the bolt, it would be under the head of the bolt. And if that turned component is the nut, it would be under the nut. So the question is there a difference in friction under the head of the bolt or under the bearing surface of the nut? And the answer is, for the standard connection, there is no difference. In other words, the bearing surface of the nut is about exactly the same as what would be the washer face or the bearing surface of the bolt. This has actually been proven by experimentation. I've done the experiment myself to prove it, and the Industrial Fasteners Institute has done the experiment, the IFI. So if you ever need the authoritative citation for this, the Industrial Fasteners Institute has a white paper called Tightening the Bolt or Nut Makes No Difference, and you can get that from their website, or you can contact me at carmenv@carverem.com, and I will get it for you. Now, obviously, this is a generalization, I should say. So could there be a case where maybe this does make a difference if we tighten the bolt or the nut, and should we care? If we were to change the nut, let's say from a standard hex nut to a flange nut, that could make a difference. If we did not have the same exact surface against which the bolt head is being tightened down and the nut is being tightened down, in other words, a hardened washer, if they weren't the same, that could make a difference. At the end of the day, though, one of the things we do in assembly technology as engineers is to eliminate variables. So if we can, let's do it the same way every time. And by basic practice, I recommend whenever we can, we tighten down the nut. We hold the head of the bolt and we tighten down the nut. That way we do it the same way every time. And if we ever have a problem, that's one of the variables that we don't need to consider. All of this can be done easily by the user as well in terms of experimentation, just with a torque wrench and a Skidmore Wilhelm bolt tension calibrator. I recommend all suppliers have that equipment. Well, tightening the bolt or the nut makes no difference, it turns out. This has been Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Thanks for listening.
This is John Gaudette with Metric and Multi-Threaded Components, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online fastener amigos, back with you. Normally we jump right into our feature segment at this juncture of the podcast, Bri. But when we got Charlie Kerr on the line to record the segment, he was just ready to go, and he didn't even give us time to set up the segment.
Right. Yeah, he had something on his mind, and it was needed to come out, okay?
Yeah, so this was like a stream of consciousness thing, and you never know what you're going to get with Charlie. Longtime Fully Threaded listeners know that he's a perennial favorite on the podcast. We like to have him on occasionally, and he started off just guns blazing. So this was one of the most unusual segments that we've recorded, I'd say, in a long time. Actually, this has been a really weird episode, Brian. We were talking about organization at the top, you know, and but anyway, we're getting it, we're busting it out here.
Right, yeah. Some things don't always go as you plan exactly.
Yeah. But I wanted to point out one other weirdness on this. Now, Charlie has a thing going with Kerr Lakeside, and it involves some litigation. And originally he wanted to discuss it, and of course everything that we discussed during the segment was all public domain. But he contacted us a little while after we recorded, and I guess he had some second thoughts on some of the things we touched on. So we went ahead and pulled that 6 or 7 minutes out of the segment, and I bring it up simply because at the end it's referred to, and I don't want you to be confused, everybody. Charlie assures us that all will be well. He'll come back to bring us up to speed on what all went down. Apparently, a number of pretty well-known fastener companies are involved in this, but he really wanted to kind of keep it off the headlines at the moment. So that's what we did for him. And I guess without further ado, let's play our conversation with Charlie Kerr.
Here's why I asked you to turn your tape recorder on, because I'm in my car, and when I drive, my mind goes places. And there is something that I want to share with your audience that I think has extremely profound value. Many of the people that listen to your podcast have an ownership interest in their business. In most cases, a significant interest to the point where the bank they do business with requires them to personally guarantee any debt obligations that the business might have with the bank. Under those circumstances, as part of someone's estate planning, whoever they choose to be the executor of their estate or trustee of any trust they might set up needs to understand that under no circumstances whatsoever are any accounts to be opened with the same bank that the business owes money to. And here's why I say that. My dad died not quite 3 years ago, and he had, in addition to his ownership interest in Kerr Lakeside, he had invested money in the stock market. He had done quite well. And, just to keep the math simple, about half of his estate was Kerr Lakeside. The other half of his estate was his investment interests. Well, at the time he died, I was appointed executor of the estate, and I was also trustee of a couple trusts that were set up. The bank that our company does business with, we owe money to on a credit line, and some other, equipment loans and things like that. So, we'll come in, we can set you up. You don't even have to leave your office. They came into my office. We opened up all these accounts right there. It took like 10 minutes. It was as easy as pie. I thought, gee, these people are great. So in the meantime, about 2 years later, business goes into tank, and we made some decisions that proved to be ill-advised at the time. And Kerr Lakeside became in violation of a couple loan covenants that we had with our bank. Well, all of a sudden, they're asking me why I started moving money around from all these accounts that I opened up, which I had to because I was executor of the estate and trustee of the estate, and I had no choice. I have a sister, and she was entitled to a share of my dad's estate, and, she was beneficiary of one of the trusts. But that bank that our company owed money to was spying, basically, on my banking activity on, behalf of my father's estate.
Oh, gosh.
Now, keep in mind, my dad's estate had a separate tax ID number. The three trusts that he had set up all had separate tax ID numbers. My dad was not guarantor of a dime of Kerr Lakeside's debt obligation to our bank. And when I opened these accounts up, the bank got copies of all the trust agreements and the documents, his will and, all that stuff that went with the estate. Now, what happened was when our fiscal year ended on October 31st, 2014, and then 12 months later on 2015, we were looking really good. And we went out and borrowed another $1.5 million from the bank to go out and buy a new header and a threader and some other related equipment, and we did an IT upgrade. So after I signed all those loan agreements, for the next 12 months, I started making distributions to do, settle my dad's estate. Well, in the meantime, business went in the tank, and we went from having our two best years ever to having our worst year ever. Now, I can't blame the bank for wanting to know what's going on, but they were starting to ask me questions about what I was doing with money that had absolutely no legal connection whatsoever to the conducting of Kerr Lakeside's business or Kerr Lakeside's loan obligations to the bank. So to repeat what I said earlier, anybody listening to your podcast that has, I can use the term high net worth investor, significant ownership interest in the company that they have, you need to make sure that the people that are responsible for settling your estate do not open any bank accounts whatsoever related to settling your estate with the bank that your company owes money to.
And I'll note here that nobody here at Fully Threaded Radio purports to be lawyers or worthy of offering legal advice, but it sounds like you're learning from experience there, Charlie. Was that 2015 or 2016 that you had your worst year ever? I didn't get wind of that.
when I first started on October 31st, 2016, it was ugly looking. We're back in the black. We're looking good right now. I'll tell you what happened. We bought a new header, and, you know, from an accounting standpoint, we have always expensed our tool purchases at the time they're made. Invoice comes in, even though the tools might sit on the rack for a while, they're an asset. If you really get into the weeds on this, if we were going to sell the company, which it's not for sale, I want to point out, we would have to go through and figure out what all that tooling's worth, because it probably adds, you know, maybe $2 million, you know, to the value of the company. But since it's all expensed, it doesn't show up in the balance sheet the way inventory does. We bought probably a 5-year supply of tools that was all expensed in a 6-month period.
Oh,
so we made it look real ugly.
Yeah.
And I get the legalities of all that, but, you know, and the reason why I didn't name banks is because I don't want to get into the particulars of that. But I was questioned, why did you send this money from our bank to this bank? And my answer was because my father's estate plan mandated that after probate court said it was all said and done, and that's what I was supposed to do. And what I'm concerned about is let's move things, you know, around a little bit. I started moving this money right about the time our fiscal year ended. The bank got our financial statements for the fiscal year, I'll say late January, early February of 2017. Had they gotten our financial statements before I started moving that money, I'm concerned they might have tried to stop me from doing it. So this is just my advice from my own experiences. When you're in the process of setting up accounts for trusts and estates for the purpose of settling someone, you know, it's a high net worth investor that dies, do not open accounts with a bank that your business or that person's business owes money to. That's my lecture for the moment. So how's you guys doing?
Duly noted. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, after that lecture, I'm not sure what to say.
Well, so we got I guess kind of a sneak preview, but last time we talked to you, Charlie, you had some really interesting ways of analyzing the industry. In other words, your orders that were coming into Kerr Lakeside were very strong, but they were different than they'd been before. We're seeing strong numbers still through the FDI, and I know you're not a distributor, so you probably don't pay as close of attention. But what are you seeing in the fastener industry currently, July 2017?
Let's pretend I'm on the witness stand and you're like a lawyer that's on the other side of the case. Of course I pay attention to the FDI. Those are my customers. How would I think otherwise?
Eric, very good answer.
Yeah, no, seriously. You know, it's like, of course I pay attention to that. You take the trouble to send it to me, I think I at least owe it to you to look at it. No, actually, that's one of the more important pieces of information that I get. We collect information from the National Association of Manufacturers, the Ohio Manufacturers Association, the Industrial Fasteners Institute, the Precision Machine Products Association, the bank that we do business with that I won't mention because of what I just said about 5 minutes ago. I do get some information from a bank that I also won't mention, but I don't do business with, and I get information from the outfit that manages our company's pension plan. The information you send me is, without question, probably one of the key, the most key piece of information I get, because those are our customers. Eric, I'm shipping stuff faster than I can replace it. Now, at the risk of sounding cute, our sales manager, Mike Lance, he's a little bit uptight because we are back ordering more things now than we were a year ago. And I told Mike I sleep really well at night because last year when we had plenty of inventory, I was worried about having enough cash. Now we got plenty of cash, and it's because we're running out of inventory. So, I'm not trying to be cute about this. I want to get the inventory back to where it needs to be. But we're out of the bank's doghouse right now because, once again, we produced inventory, turned it into cash. They're satisfied that the problems we had, created for ourselves a year ago. But I think that just based on what I'm seeing right now, for the next 12 months, I expect to have a similar business environment. And I love my customers, and I hope they, understand that we're working hard to keep our inventory levels where they should be. But at the end of the day, I'd rather worry about how I'm going to fill a back order than how I'm going to pay a bill to the bank.
Yeah, well,
That's
I suppose
fair.
it's always better to have problems related to success and booming business than the alternative, so that's good to hear.
Well, I'm thrilled to death right now. I mean, it's like I said, I know Mike is a little bit uptight, and that's what he gets paid to do. He's doing his job, does a great job, and he feeds me in on the information like, hey, customer wants to know why we're out of some of this stuff. And, one of the other things that I'm kind of faced with right now, we have a 5/16 diameter capacity machine that translates to 8 millimeters on the metric side. On the inch, basically it runs number 8s, number 10s, quarter inch, and 5/16 corresponding metric sizes. We're going to take that machine out of line for about 4 or 5 weeks to rebuild it. And from a service standpoint, the timing couldn't be worse. But the machine's been breaking down a lot, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many stockouts in our inventory, because we have a piece of equipment that's becoming less and less dependable. So we're going to schedule national. It's a national FX24L header cell with a threader. We're scheduling them to come in around Thanksgiving and the first of the year to get this thing torn apart and put back together. If there's a time of the year where we can get away with having a piece of mission-critical equipment out of service, that's it. And hopefully as we get into the early part of 2018, and our service level is still at 94%. But, when you say it's going to be 97% or better, those 3 or 4 percentage points are huge. So, we're kind of falling short of what we tell people to count on us to do. And I'm not proud and I'm not happy to say that. But I'm grateful that our customers are giving that much business to us, presenting us with this problem that I'm confident that we're going to be able to solve.
So last time we were talking, it was pre-election, pre-World Series. We have a lot to cover, Charlie Kerr. I'll ask you about the former first. To what level do you attribute the surge that we're seeing to the result of the election?
Well, that's kind of hard to answer other than guessing at. I, by coincidence, read a column in yesterday's, that would be July 24th, 2017, USA Today. And their financial writer basically said, Trump rally or Trump surge. He said, professional investors look past some of these, emotional moments in politics. At the end of the day, companies are performing well. That is, helping the economy, driving the stock market. Now, on the flip side of that coin, the company that manages Kerr Lakeside's pension funds, and if I can, I'll say who it is. It's an outfit called Manning and the Pier. They told me that Trump's pronouncements about tax reform, the expatriation of some overseas funds, companies that have headquarters like in Ireland or other places in Europe, investors are anticipating a lot of these things acting as like a booster shot for the economy. Now, if they don't come to be, 2 years from now, we might see a correction, and that's not totally lost on me, but 2 years is a fairly long time, and I'm not going to make decisions for the next 6 to 12 months based on what I think might happen 24 or 18 to 24 months away from now. I'm optimistic, but I will tell you this. In late 2015, business started, well, I shouldn't say late, it was like August of 2015. Our business started to get a little soft. And based on all the information I was collecting from all the different sources I named a couple minutes ago, I thought this was going to be a short, shallow event. I was wrong. It was prolonged and it was deeper than I expected it to be. And I made a lot of spending decisions on behalf of our business based on this is a temporary short-term problem. I'm not going to get burned twice. I'm optimistic, but I'm also going to be very cautious when it comes to making expenditures and investments on behalf of the business. Somewhere along the line, and I'm guessing probably in the next 3 years, the Blue brothers, Brian and Alan, they frequently make presentations to the NFDA and the IFI, as well as the Precision Machine Products Association. They're predicting a short and shallow recession in like the second half of 2019. Maybe the first half of 2020. If they say short and shallow, I'm going to assume a little bit longer, a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
It's kind of like carry your umbrella if you don't have to open it because it doesn't rain. You're in better shape than if you walk out there and get drenched.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and we've heard that advice, and they seem fairly indifferent to whatever political party gets in power, and we've heard all that. But having said all that, do you think the current talk about the tax reform, I mean, it seems like the corporate tax reform ideas that have been floated would be really beneficial, at least in the short term, but at the same time, it doesn't really seem like the Republicans have the momentum to get it through. So how's the market betting on that, and how's that impacting business? I mean, business is booming at the moment, but what do we make of all this?
Well, I think consumer sentiment is, okay, me, kind of digress for a second, but this plays into your answer. We've been trying to hire entry-level people for kind of like just show up every day and we'll teach you how to do the job. And it's really difficult to do because most people that are available to work are working. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are able-bodied people that should be working, and they're not because we're competing with government benefits. And I'm not even going to get into what they are, but they're basically living on the dole. But the unemployment rate, I don't know, is like 4.5%. But the number I watch is workforce participation, which I think is still high. But there is a shortage of people to hire. That makes the people who are hired feel more secure in their jobs. And if you feel secure in your job, you're going to be a little bit more liberal with your spending habits. That is what I think is driving, the robust, business that I'm experiencing. People are buying cars, they're buying appliances. Housing starts are fairly strong right now. That translates into washers and dryers and washing machines and furnaces and air conditioners. And all that stuff has fasteners in it. Now, they might not be the kind of fasteners I make, but it soaks up production capacity in the industry.
Yeah.
And I expect, interest rates, are still fairly low. So if people have to borrow money to make a major purchase, the financing expense is not going to be a determining factor in their decision to do that. Now, back to your original question about the political environment, there was a statement that was made about the budget that the president presented a couple months ago. And it was something to the effect, this is a taxpayer-centered budget. And I really believe that's not rhetoric. I think that, the president and the administration, the people that surround the president, really think that the people that are paying the country's bills need to be thought of first and foremost in any budgetary considerations, which, of course, translates into tax policy. So I don't have a crystal ball, but I think when it's all said and done, whatever they do is going to be an improvement over what the status quo is at the moment.
So basically, you're saying that at this point it's so unknowable that the market is not yet factoring in its decision on whether or not corporate taxes are going to be cut.
Well, I think what they're factoring in is that the future holds an improved environment over what we started with in January of 2017. It can't get worse. That's probably the mindset that, whether it's the professional institutional investors or a guy that wants to go out and start his own business, I think, forget about the tax code for a second. Regulatory environment, whether it's EPA, IRS, OSHA, Department of Labor. See, this stuff hasn't really been in the mainstream media.
Oh, Charlie, I tell you, the mainstream media has been shielding the public from a lot of what's been happening, but I mean,
correct.
The Trump administration has been eviscerating all kinds of extraneous regulation, and it's having a big effect. I think part of what you're seeing, part of the cause of this surge is definitely due to that. I mean, there's a real sense of optimism. You could point to the energy sector as a real obvious example, but it's across the board. Whether or not it's long-standing because it's not legislative, it's basically by bureaucratic fiat, is another question. But for the moment, I think you're dead on.
Well, let me tell you this. Let's say the corporate tax rate was reduced to 20%. I would think that was good.
Let's go for 15.
Let's say it was reduced to 15%, okay? But if OSHA, EPA, Department of Labor, EEOC type stuff was rolled back to where it was 20 years ago, but you kept the tax rate where it is today, I'd shake hands with the politician that arranged it and said, great deal. Because we spend more time screwing around trying to figure out how to maintain our compliance with, and some of the stuff, if you manage your company correctly, you want to have a safety program because, let's face it, when people get hurt on the job, that's not good for your productivity. Hiring people is hard. You need to have, procedures in place so that people are not excluded for reasons, whether they're race, religion, gender, on and on and on. But all these different regulations are like, take a football field, and there's a bunch of landmines planted in it. And the government says they're down at one end of the field and you're at the other. We want you to walk toward this end of the field, but you got to guess where all the landmines are. Donald Trump is removing the landmines as much as he can so that as you're walking from one end of the football field to the other, you don't blow your feet off. That's where because you got to hire lawyers and accountants and other experts, to make sure you stay out of trouble. Like I was at there's this local business group here in the Cleveland area called WireNet. Great group. We're not a member of it, but I go to a number of their meetings.
They wouldn't let you join, huh?
He's a consultant. And his specialty is advising people, how to comply with, various OSHA and EPA-related regulations. And he said something, we're just standing there, talking at cocktail hour. And he said, fewer and fewer people are getting injured as a result of things that were common 10 or 15 years ago. Machine guarding, slip and fall hazards. And he pulled his cell phone out of his pocket and he started looking at the screen. And then he showed it to me, and he said, you know what? More and more people are getting hurt at work because of these things. You need to be ahead of the curve. Distracted while working is going to become a new OSHA regulation. It's, same thing with workplace violence. More and more people are getting injured at work as a result of violence in the workplace. They're getting their fingers caught in a machine. OSHA, well, now that Obama's not president anymore, it might not be quite as quick. But as more and more people get hurt as a result of being distracted by their, smartphone or, disgruntled family member or ex-employee coming to work, that is going to be something you need to be on the front edge of. And once again, Trump seems to put the brakes in some of these regulations. Why should I be responsible because someone's ex-husband comes to work and beats his ex-wife up in my parking lot, when if it happened at McDonald's a mile away from my shop, I'd have nothing to do with it?
Yeah. Well, I could see the smartphones being a distraction and more injuries happening because of that, because it's more prevalent. But in terms of the workplace violence, I got to think that the reason that it appears to be surging in statistically is that simply that other forms of injury are being reduced, so it stands out more. I can't imagine it's actually increasing.
More prevalent. Yeah.
Oh, no, Eric, you're absolutely right. And I'll give you, an analogy to that. My mother died in the year 2000, and she died of Lou Gehrig's disease. 25 years earlier, it was almost unheard of for someone to die of Lou Gehrig's disease. And the reason why I threw this 25 years earlier thing out is because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she survived it. Now, if that had happened, say, 10 or 15 years before that, it might have taken her life, and we would have never known that she was, in line to, come down with Lou Gehrig's disease. So as people die, fewer people die of all these things they used to die of, 25, 30, 40 years ago, more people are going to die of things that were like, hey, why is everybody dying of this stuff? It's the same thing with the workplace. And bureaucrats, whether they work for the EPA, the IRS or OSHA or some other government agency, they look for problems that don't exist that need to be solved.
Yep.
That's how they justify their existence.
Yeah. Last time we spoke, Charlie, changing the subject to the boys of summer, we were looking at a very interesting World Series upcoming, and I was just looking at the standings as they sit today. Your Cleveland Indians are up by about a game and a half. The Cubs are only down half. It's a little over halfway through the season, and what do you say about a rematch, buddy?
Well, okay, let's back up about 2 minutes ago. The lawyers are product liability insurance.
Oh, you're going to do this to me?
Yeah, hang on a second. This is meaningful, okay? The lawyers that our insurance company has retained have advised me that it would be a good idea that if I was on site for the entire trial, which happens to start the day of the first game of the American League Championship Series, and they think it might run through the World Series.
Oh, timing.
So I have already let the guys that I have season tickets with know I'm not ordering any postseason tickets. I'll be watching the game on TV. So I'm in a bad mood about that, too.
Okay.
Charlie, I got one word for you. Continuance.
I want to get this over with. I tell you, I'm one of those people, I don't like things hanging over my head, especially stuff, that can go wrong, in a bad way. And I don't, deal with uncertainty very well. And, I'll tell you what, though, it's weird. I'm not losing sleep over this because, we got good insurance and all that. And I feel comfortable that, when it's all said and done, the evidence is going to show that we'll be okay. But if the Indians don't even make the postseason, but there's nonsense going on the legal end, it gets resolved to my satisfaction, I'll be the happiest guy in the world. I guess I'm putting it in perspective. Yeah, it'd be great. With my luck, the Indians are going to win the World Series. I'm going to miss all of it. But, hey, it comes with the territory, I guess.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you for putting that priority above baseball, but I know you're a big baseball guy, so I hope it works out for you. We're going to keep in touch with you and find all this out.
Well, you didn't see me on TV last week, did you?
Huh?
I'm in San Francisco for the Indians-Giants game on Monday. I forget what date it was. It was a week ago yesterday. And I'm sitting there, we're kind of behind home plate. My son, he works for Google out there. And Edwin Encarnacion hits a foul ball, and all the people sitting in front of me are, trying to catch it. And it ends up landing in the seat next to me that was, no one sitting in. So I picked up the ball, stood up, showed it to some of the people sitting around me, and they all clapped. About 10 seconds later, my phone starts going off. All these text messages. Hey, I just saw you on TV, man. And the first thing I thought about, I'm there at the game, with my son. It's like, wow, it's a good thing I'm not here with someone I'm not supposed to be with. I could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, right.
Oh, God, that's good. Well, Charlie, you're getting double media exposure here. You were on television last week. You're on Fully Threaded Radio worldwide this week, and we sure do appreciate you joining in with us. It's Charlie Kerr with Kerr Lakeside. He's the head honcho over there. They're a very well-respected manufacturer of socket screw products and various other related products out here in the Northeast Ohio area. It's always great talking with you, Charlie.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to, vent to you guys. But I do have one last thing to tell you.
Shoot.
Eric, I know you're a sports fisherman. I just finished reading this book. You got to get a copy of it. It's called The Death and Life of the Great Lakes.
Oh, right. We were talking about that the other day. That sounds fascinating. All the invasive species and everything.
I'm not a book reader per se. Book's basically 300 pages long. It's a series of, the guy that wrote it, his name is Dan Egan. He's like the outdoors, sportsman writer for the Milwaukee Sentinel. And the book is basically written like a series of articles as it would be published in his paper. But the short version of the book is it deals with ecological problems caused in the Great Lakes as a result of invasive species. Primarily, fish and stuff like that. A little bit of plant life. But I know that, through, I'm a little bit older than you, but, lake trout, and then they, introduce salmon to the Great Lakes to get rid of one invasive species. And, a very easy reading book. If you enjoy sports fishing on the Great Lakes, you need to read this because it explains a lot of things that have happened in the last, say, 30 or 40 years as to why some fish have gone from being very common to almost disappearing.
Well, Brian and I are all about that, so that sounds like a very
Absolutely.
interesting read.
Yeah.
We going to see you out there on Lake Erie then?
Nah, I'm not a fisherman. I take an interest in the lake because I grew up next to it. And, for instance, these mussels, the zebra mussels and the quagga, I think that's how you pronounce it, they're making the water real clear looking. And a lot of people think that's a good thing, and it's not, because what makes the water cloudy is the plankton that a lot of the minnows and small prey fish feed on, so that the bigger fish like the walleye and the trout have food. Like I said, just very informative book. Anybody wants to take time away from their normal, day-to-day, headaches, it's a good read.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Charlie Kerr, you're a big fish in the fastener industry ecosystem, and you are lakeside on the north coast right there on Lake Erie, and so it's good that you're keeping abreast of what's going on out there. People who are interested in looking at what else Kerr Lakeside's doing can get out to their website. That's Kerr, Kerr, lakeside.com. Great website, Charlie. Thanks, as always, for getting with us. And we're going to catch up with you again after this whole litigation winds up, and we'll I'm sure, get a lot more detail.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I got to be careful about what I say right now because, it's just the lawyers basically said, don't talk about this. Like, everything I told you is in the public domain. But once this is over with, I'll tell you more about it. All right?
You're on.
Hey, we caught you on the road off to your vacation, and we hope you have a great one. It was so good to talk to you, Charlie Kerr, and we'll be right back with more Fully Threaded Radio.
I'm going to party with the bears in the Allegheny National Forest.
Brian and Eric, they're online. Fastener Talk Radio Extremist. You're right on with Fully Threaded Radio.
Why do distributors turn to Lindstrom? Because we're committed to being the source for everything distributors need, including packaging and manufacturing. If you need less than bulk, packaged product off the shelf, or custom packaging, Lindstrom has it all. Ask about kits, assortments, and our new VMI bin pack program. Whether you need special lengths or thread pitch, altered parts, studs, or manufactured parts, inch or metric, large parts or small, Lindstrom has you covered. We also manufacture special washers in addition to sockets, bolts, and nuts. Need a prototype part? Call Lindstrom. As the leading specialty fastener master distributor, Lindstrom is focused on a single goal: to bring our distributors the perfect combination of convenience, flexibility, value, and choice. To be the source for everything distributors need. When you need something special, turn to Lindstrom. To learn more about Lindstrom and our expanded brand of value-added products and services, visit LindstromFastener.com or call a sales representative at 1-800-572-5550. Lindstrom, by any measure.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Unlike other software companies, with InSequel, you purchase your software once. There will never be a paid upgrade. If you need assistance with anything, InSequel is there to help. When you call, you will always speak with a real person offering you quick and knowledgeable answers to your questions. Can your current provider say this? Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. So why settle? Call InSequel Software at 877-446-9775 or visit www.inxsql.com.
I don't have time to look for the best price for a socket head cap screw zinc plated with a patch.
Solution Man can. Let me handle all of your secondary processes, and I'll even ship the finished product. One price, one purchase order, one invoice, and one shipment equals one solution. Visit the Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
Solution Man, you're my primary source for secondary processes.
Good one.
Hey, this is Clayton Allen from Buckeye Fasteners in Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian Musker, Eric Dudas back with you in the online Fastener Party Bungalow, Fully Threaded.
Or the party bus, okay?
You always say that, Brian. I still like bungalow better.
Well, we had a party bungalow up in Canada. That was very nice.
And party we did. Don't worry, Brian. Next year I'll be here before you know it. Well, it was great to hear Charlie Kerr's thoughts on a variety of subjects. And among other things, I got to say this. He did, I think, a great honor to the Fastener Distributor Index, and he apparently watches that like a hawk among other bits of data that he tracks as he steers Kerr Lakeside down the path to certain glory. And I'd like to thank all of you who participate in the FDI. Get out to FDIsurvey.com. We're always hoping to attract new North American distributors into the survey, but we're in our 6th year of data gathering, and we had another strong month that we just reported on for June, the Fastener Distributor Index.
Right, so since those of you listening are distributors, fastener distributors, make sure if you meet another one, ask them, are they signed up to input their survey into the FDI monthly? The more people that do it, the better the results are. Okay, it's like everything. And it isn't really like a lot of work. It's a few minutes once a month.
I think everybody agrees that it's pretty simple to do. All your information is anonymous, so therefore we never mention any of the participants. We've got a pretty strong and regular group of survey respondents, but we can always use more.
Right.
FDIsurvey.com.
That's it.
I'd like to thank all of our guests on today's podcast. Charlie Kerr from Kerr Lakeside, Jonathan Koch with Industrial Metal Finishing, Melissa Magestro with Mack Brooks, Frank DeVito with Solution Industries joined Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International magazine on today's Fastener News Report. And, of course, Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute. Carmen's got a large and growing fan club as a result of his work with FTR, and we're sure glad to have him.
Here we are.
Gives us at least a modicum of credibility, I think, Bri. As do you.
Even if Carmen and I don't strictly agree on additive manufacturing, okay?
Yeah, that's true. We're going to have a showdown episode one of these times. More on that later, everybody. Also giving credibility to Fully Threaded is our list of very fine sponsors. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. And Lindstrom. Lindstrom, by any measure. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by 3Q, Buckeye Fasteners, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, the National Industrial Fastener and Mill Supply Expo, ND Industries, The Worth Group, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. Hey folks, get with us anytime. Brian and I always look forward to your comments on the podcast. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com, and we hang out on Twitter occasionally where the handle is Fully Threaded.
Actually, Eric hangs out on Twitter a little more frequently than I do, okay?
Although after that conversation with Jonathan at the top of the show, maybe LinkedIn is another place that we should frequent a little more.
Yeah, I know.
Well, one way or another, we'll be back with episode 119. Hopefully this one will be a little bit more organized, but I have to say it this way, Bri. We're back kind of in this aftermath of our annual fishing trip, which by definition is a little depressing because I tell you, when you're up there in the bush, up in the North Woods, it's quite an experience on the Canadian Shield. I'd recommend it to anybody, and you're gone for 10 days and you don't have a lot to deal with other than basically muskies, mosquitoes, and gin and tonics. But It's
actually, it's a very nice change to be able to come in after a very long day of just casting and pick up a G&T on the way back to the lodge. I like that idea. I could get used to that, actually.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Helps to wash down those walleye fillets. But we're confronted with the reality that we've got some desk work to do here until our next adventure. But I tell you, the thing that's really got me a little bit upset this week, at least, is we're dealing with the aftermath of this bungled Republican repeal of the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. And we started off the show with a little montage trying to express our frustration with this. But I tell you, folks, this is just bad news. You know, the Republicans got both houses of Congress, and they've got the executive branch during the last election phase, and it was because, among other reasons, people wanted this repeal. And they just can't, or they won't do it. It's just unbelievable, Bri.
I know. It's very discouraging. I mean, it's there are difficulties in it because, you know, relative to places, states like Illinois, the part of the Affordable Care Act was to suddenly convince gazillions of people in Illinois to go on Medicaid, which would be covered by Obamacare. I mean, in Illinois, 1 in 4 people is on Medicaid. That's a lot of sick people, okay?
Well, since 1966, when the program was first initialized, and there was something like 4,000 people on Medicaid, it's just expanded wildly. But the main point is that we're setting ourselves up for a so-called one-payer system, which is the equivalent of socialized medicine, which is basically handing over control of your whole life to the government, which is a terrible idea. I mean, it's bad at so many levels, and it's just really got me depressed. I don't know what else to do. We were really hoping that this would be a last-ditch effort to save the country from this problem. I mean, we've talked about swords of Damocles hanging over us. Well, we got another one right now, and it's just terrible. You know, it makes me think of a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase, but James Madison, father of the Constitution, was quoted roughly as saying, "Those with knowledge will always rule those without." And I just have to think that if more people understood what so-called single-payer health actually means for your material life, then there'd be a lot more resistance, and that's really the only weapon we have in this. And with that in mind, we've pointed out in the past the books of Mark Levin, the well-known talk show host. He just put out a new title. I'm going to recommend everybody take a look at it. It's certainly not going to solve our problems, but the more people that know more will be in a much better position to help us fight off more of this kind of activity from Washington. The name of the book is Rediscovering Americanism, and I have not read the whole thing, but I can tell you this, all of his other books and what I have read of this one lead me to recommend it very highly. You can get it out there on Amazon and all the other usual sources, but Mark Levin's Rediscovering Americanism, if you've already read it or you know the evil that we're confronting with this ACA repeal failure, get the word out there. I mean, that's all the predominantly non-fastener related stuff I think we're going to cover here. But
right.
You go from the euphoria of the Canadian Shield back into the cesspool, Brian, and it's a lot to take.
Yeah, the practical reality of politics.
The good news is we get to turn around and start working on episode 119. We hope that brings a little bit of
relief.
Good word, Brian, relief to you, our listeners, and we appreciate you so much listening in. But I guess that's going to put episode 118 of Fully Threaded Radio in the can.
Yep.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Be educated, be informed, and be an FTR listener.
Good advice.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
It's a beaver over there, mate.
What?
Is that a huge beaver?
What?
Mate, do beavers have ears?